Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Project Wolf Hunting, a Korean action horror flick from 2022. There has been a little bit of hype online regarding this movie. Most of the attention has been directed towards the graphic and bloody violence within it. But is the film entertaining enough to earn a recommendation? Let's find out. After an extradition of criminals from Manila to Korea was disrupted by suicide attack in an airport, officials decide that the next group of criminals should be transported by sea. While under heavily armed guard, the dangerous convicts aboard this cargo ship unite in a coordinated escape attempt that soon escalates into a bloody all-out riot. But as the fugitives continue their brutal campaign of terror, they soon discover that not even the most vicious among them is safe from the horror they have unknowingly unleashed from the darkness below deck. So the opening half hour of this movie has some setup. Most of the cops that are on board this ship are pretty vanilla, kind of wafer thin, but a few of them are at least resilient enough to make it past the initial conflict. One thing that I liked was that the cops try to apprehend the criminals through non-lethal means, and this gives their characters a little bit of color through their actions, that they adhere to a set of rules and standards. But after a while, you gotta take care of business, and I felt like the cops were too passive in their use of their firearms. They'll pull their guns on someone who just murdered a fellow cop, and they just stand there, frozen. And I'm just dude, you gotta get rid of these guys. They're going around killing people on the ship. I understand in some situations they were in the engine room of the ship. You don't want to be shooting in there, but still, I think the cops' reaction times in this movie, in response to threats, deadly threats, was too slow and too passive, and that did become one of the more distracting aspects of the movie overall. I think performances are pretty good. But I was disappointed with the lead actress, Jung So-min. I felt like her mannerisms seemed very unnatural, kind of awkward most of the time. She wouldn't really react to things like a human being typically would. Either she had no expression at all, or had the wrong expression on her face, given the situation. So that was not a good performance by the lead in this, the lead actress. But everyone else is good enough. Now, most of the focus is actually placed on the prisoners, believe it or not. The cops, a small number of cops, get a decent amount of screen time, but we're with the prisoners a lot in this, actually. They're very evil and seem to be completely sociopathic. The prisoners are not anti-heroes in this. This isn't a typical movie where, we're going to hang around with these bad guys who really aren't that bad, and then you end up rooting for them and stuff. No, these bad guys are bad. They're vicious murderers, and they act accordingly. And this initial conflict with the riot breakout involving the prisoners is separate from the later conflict that comes into play. But both of those are pretty violent endeavors. And as you could probably tell from what I've said so far, you do not go into this movie, Project Wolf Hunting, for the story or the character development. You just don't. You watch it for the genre elements, which is, the action and the horror components. In general, they satisfy. The death scenes are pretty nasty. They look pretty realistic. The gore effects are good in this. There are some blood fountains to enjoy, but if you're expecting cheesy fun like The Machine Girl, that's not really what you get here. The blood flows excessively, and people die horribly. Usually through knife strikes, blunt objects, or graphic gunplay. So that gives Project Wolf Hunting a feeling of brutality, a little bit of an edge to it. There's a complete disregard for human life in this, which is actually one of the film's greater strengths, because some of the deaths in this movie are fairly unpredictable. Any one of these characters, good or bad, could get clipped at any moment. You know what I mean? And that in mere seconds. Some of the deaths are pretty abrupt and shocking. And I enjoyed that element. It kind of kept me in it. Because I'm wow, I thought that character was going to last longer. And oh man, that guy too. So I like that aspect in this. It was a true, survival horror type film with action, basically. The death scenes themselves are a little bit repetitive. There's a good variety of killings, but not as much as there probably should have been given like the massive body count. The body count in this movie is pretty massive. So I would have liked maybe a few more creative deaths mixed in, but it still satisfies. When all is said and done, I think Project Wolf Hunting is entertaining stuff. I had some problems with it that I mentioned. Not quite as awesome as I was kind of expecting. You know what I mean? It doesn't quite hit that really awesome level tier of entertainment value, in my opinion. But I think it's a good flick, and it's entertaining if you like violent action horror films. All right. Currently available streaming and on physical media. And as always, I will see you next time.